Welcome to WorkWise, insightful interviews for the church at work. Welcome to WorkWise. Today, it's my pleasure to interview some longtime friends and colleagues, Bill and Linda McGrane of the McGrane Global Centers. They're doing some really significant work that translates stained glass principles into plain glass language with a real focus in the area of marriage, which you're going to hear about in a minute. Bill and Linda, it's such a pleasure to have you folks here. And for the viewers that are new to you and the work that you do, would you please tell us a little bit about your work background and about the McGrane Global Centers?
Sure, Chuck. We're blessed to be with you and grateful to be involved with any work that you're doing. You know, our organization is second generation. My parents started it. My mother and father started it. I grew up around it. And I thought most people knew the skills that I took for granted. And as I got older, I realized that they had really given me a gift. And so the question that was often asked in the beginning was, how come people hurt so much? What causes people to be in pain? And more importantly, what can they do about it? And the more that my parents and I have researched that, and now Linda and I have been doing this work for over 30 years together, is we realize that people are wounded because they don't know their true identity and who they are as God. But they also haven't learned two things, because there's a lot of people who know God, but they haven't had a personal relationship with themselves. And when they line those two together, that's when you really have who I believe God designed us to be. And so that's what we do at the McGrane Global Centers, is give people the skills and the tools to live out in practical ways the world, the way that the Lord made each of us to be.
Yes. Linda, what are your thoughts there?
Well, that's how it began. And now the Lord has given us a mandate to increase it, to increase the volume of people that we bring in and to move into the world, basically. And so the mandate actually is coming from 1 Kings 19, where Elijah is anointed to anoint Elisha to move on and to continue the work. And so it also comes from 2 Timothy 2, verse 2, where it is another mandate where God is saying, what I've taught you, teach to other faithful men so that they can teach others. And so that's where we really are now. And then he also, just in the last year or so, is focusing on marriages. He's doing that because he's told us this is his institution and it's being destroyed. The enemy is after his institution because he's after the bride of Christ. And his institution represents his relationship to the bride. And so we are taking that really very seriously and doing whatever we can to restore marriages so that they can go out and do the assignments that God has given them.
You know, one of the things that we see is that if we impact a marriage, we impact the family. If we impact the family, we impact the community. If we impact the community, we impact the state, which impacts the nation, which impacts the world. And so that's how come we've made this the core of what we do. Even though there are many things that we do, helping marriage is at the core of what we believe really makes the difference.
And two, for us, this is a really personal thing. It's a passionate thing because we have a blended family. And so we know what it's like to be in a relationship that isn't working. Yes. And I, for myself, really identify with the people that are in pain. And I want to stop that pain because it doesn't need to happen if they only know what to do. And it's so simple, but they just have to know what to do and they don't. And so for us, it's really a passion that we have to be able to stop that pain and set them back on the right track.
Linda, that's the perfect lead in to the next question I wanted to explore. In the space of marriage, developing and enriching marriage, how do you guys approach that?
Well, one of the things that we found is that when marriages are in an unhealthy state, you get this block, you get this confusion. You almost don't know how to sort out what's going on because it really starts in the beginning, oftentimes before they even get married. And then they think that the spouse is going to make everything better. And then they get married. And then all of a sudden they decide, well, we're going to have kids and that's going to make it better. And then they realize that might not be working. And all of a sudden they don't have the skills to function individually as a couple or as a family. And now there's a disaster happening.
Yes.
And so they're trying to work. They're trying to keep things together. Their desire is to make it work, but they don't know what to do and how to do it. And so what we do is we do individual coaching and we do group coaching and give people the skills and the tools to practically make things work. Because when you're not in a good place individually, you can't have a healthy marriage. And so we start with the individual, then we work with them as a couple. And as a result, that impacts the family. And often these skills can also be applied really everywhere in ministry. It can be applied in the workplace. It can be impacting their family. Generations can be impacted.
We also have taken information. We've done tons of research and trial and error. And out of that, we've really come back with a program. So we have 4 pillars to that program. And the first one is removing the brick walls that have been built up in a marriage. That has to happen first. And so we actually have a system to be able to do that. And we call it SEE. It's proven it happens 100% of the time. People really understand where those brick walls were created and how to take them down. But more importantly, how to keep them down, because trauma happens all the time. And now we're into a season of life where when we look at what's going on, there's tremendous trauma all around us. So they have to know how to keep that out and keep it stable and how to move through it. So that's the first pillar. And then the second pillar is to help them relearn communication, because whatever communication we learned was not good communication. Usually, I know for me, I learned from my mother and my dad, which I vowed I would never do, and then ended up doing. It was like my mother was coming right out of my mouth, and so we
Don't
have
you
to
hate that?
I do, but I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. And so now we can help retrain the communication and how to do that in a loving way where people learn, who they are and are respected for who they are and want to understand at a deeper level. And then the last pillar 3 really is about conflict and resolving the conflict and helping them move through the conflict. And then pillar 4 is, of course, replacing all of that with intimacy, love, passion, so that they have fun. God intended marriage to be fun, not to be, drab and a hard job, but he intended it to carry his glory and his joy. And so we help them reestablish that.
And I think that's really important, because when you're dealing with such serious subjects, a lot of times people want to avoid addressing the marriage because they think it's just going to get better over time. Well, the longer you hold off in addressing it, the more painful it becomes. But the other part that we like to do is we like to have fun.
Yes.
And to make it a light thing instead of such a heavy thing, because it gets so intense sometimes people just can't relax. And when they're in a better place, when they're happier, they can have fun and they can get back to love. And we love to help people get back to love.
Right.
I think the other piece that, Chuck, people really appreciate about us is we're going to speak the truth to them in love. Oftentimes people are told things, but they don't really know if it's true or if they can count on it. And because we're biblically based, we focus on what the Lord's message is, not just our message, because it's really not what, our opinion is. We just learned over the years from all the training and background we have, but more importantly, we've learned from our own practical experience. And we teach people in a way that they enjoy the process and make it simple that they can get immediate action out of each session that we do with them.
So actually they go away experiencing the experience, so to speak, because we use and that's what makes all the difference, because when they practice it and they get to see it, because we model a ton and we are really like an open book. They can ask us any question. We work through our own conflicts, sometimes inside the program. So, because we constantly have to use what we're
real time.
Real talk. Because we have to use what we're teaching them in order to be able to do what we're doing. And so when it's real time, they get tons out of it and they see it. And once you can see it, you can do it. And so I think that's the thing that really helps people. It gives them hope, instant hope. We like to give, because sometimes they come in and they're so depressed and they think that there's absolutely no hope and there's no way they can do it. But when they see us do it, there's hope. And then that opens up that opens up a whole new space for them. And I think that's one of the keys.
I'm thinking of that scripture in Jeremiah. I have plans to give you hope in a future, to prosper you, not to harm you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can just imagine what it would be like for a couple with a struggling marriage to rediscover hope and to begin to dream again about the future. I'm wondering, for the two of you, as you dream about the future of the McGrane Global Centers, how would you like to see it go and grow? How do you sense that God is directing it forward?
Well, each of us have a mission, and fortunately, we're in alignment on that mission. And we see that the Lord is asking us to put centers in many countries, and many of them in the United States, but all over the world. And what we're doing is we're training trainers in our skill sets so that they can then pass it on to next generations. And then we're also working with individuals. So whether we're doing, for example, we do a lot of Zoom training so that people can do it from anywhere in the world. We also work with individuals live. We also do intensives where we'll do 2 or 3 days where we'll do a getaway weekend someplace, because sometimes it's better just to get away, have a holiday somewhere, and go intense and in depth instead of it taking so long to address the issues. The other thing that happens is that people in ministry, we often are working with pastors and other religious leaders and ministry teams who bring us in to do an event at their church or their community because they need something to happen there on an individual basis with their people. So there are many ways in which we go about providing what we do.
I think part of what,
Go
go ahead.
Linda.
I think a part of what we want these global centers to be is also leaders that can join shields with other leaders to be able to take cities, to be able to take eventually states and countries so that they can move in and take countries. So in the long period, I kind of see that we would partner with other people that are wanting to do things like food outreach, like medical outreach, like whatever it is that city is needing, so that we could partner with them and bring in resources to them so that it could be a hub for whatever is needed in that city, so that it moves people into, again, hope and getting their needs met so that they can address, if you're starving, you can't address your marriage. And so this would be a center that would be able to provide all of that in the long term.
Bill and Linda, I'm sure there are people watching this video who would love to follow up with you to learn more, or perhaps they would like to really walk into your programming for their marriage. How can they best reach you?
Well, simply what they can do is go to our website, McGrane.com, MCGRANE.com. They can give us a call at 859-384-6333. We're offering a couple things. One, we have a free ebook, a complimentary ebook that is available that they can go to a QR code or go to our website and it'll say free gift. They can get that. The other thing we're doing is we offer a complimentary coaching call, because oftentimes these are very personal subjects that people don't really feel comfortable talking individually to people about without some context. And so we offer a confidential complimentary call where we can identify what's going on and give them some recommendations on next steps that they can take. And whether they do anything with us or not, they're going to get tools that they can immediately start using from that.
That's great. Bill and Linda, thank you so much for the service that you're bringing to our community and really more broadly to the nation. It's encouraging and inspiring, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Chuck. Love you as well.
Thank you.